What is up, everyone? It's Thomas with Real Broker, coming at you live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. going over the market stats, news you need to know about, think about buying, selling, or investing here in northeastern Florida. And we're also doing the market stats. So if you have any questions about anything that we cover here, drop them in the comments below. If you're watching the replay, try to come back and answer all those comments and questions. So throw them in the comments anyway. Either way, any engagement helps here, helps get the message out. But let's go ahead and hop into, and this is going to be relevant with our news stories here because I wanted to cover the condo stats, and I'm probably going to put out a more polished video long form on a Saturday where I can dive into each one of these topics. But for this one, I think we'll just do it real quick. I want to show you some of the stats. We'll talk about condos here and kind of what's been happening across the state of Florida, but really hone in here in Jacksonville. And then we're going to talk about a lawsuit that just happened for condo owners in Brickell in Miami, where they've actually won in defeating their condo board, essentially. So go ahead and get started on that. Let me share my screen. All right. So as you guys may know or may not know, back in 2021, Surfside condo collapsed. I mean, just from the pictures here from Google Earth, it didn't look like it was doing the hottest either way, but it collapsed and killed almost 100 people, or maybe a little over 100. Since then, we've seen HOA fees go up pretty significantly, and that has to do with legislation that was put in July of 2022. Condos that are three stories or more must have a milestone inspection once the building reaches 30 years and every 10 years after. And then if the building is within 3 miles of the coastline, it's 20 years and every 7 years after. So that all started, and they were all due by December of 31st, 2024, which since then, we've seen kind of condos starting to price in like, okay, hey, we're going to have money for the repairs that are going to be needed, and also insurance has gone up as well. But we've seen since 2022, whereas before it was going up, probably with the rate of inflation, but from 2022 on, it's jumped 43%, which is pretty significant. Then we take a look at months of supply. We're at 7.9, where the average for, this is just condos in Jacksonville, the average months of supply is 4.2. And then if you compare it to the rest of our market here, where we've seen our supply increase across all properties, but condos have completely moved away from what all properties are doing. Condo sales as well, down 53.9%. So I imagine this is I'm not exactly sure what that 584 is, but that's probably waiting for additional data to come in. So it's probably an estimate, but just taking a look at this, that's a pretty significant decline since 2021 when that collapse happened. Condo closed sales are declining more than the general market, right? So went from 10% of our entire market 2021 to now 6.8%, which is huge when you're factoring in the macro environment of Jacksonville. Condo active listings up 31%, and then the market share hasn't changed too much, right? Which is really interesting, but also our inventory has grown in general here. So maybe it's just more condos are on the market than typical, but also more houses are on the market than typical. So in general, it's not looking good for condo owners here in the state of Florida. Optimistically, I like to think that they will start to pass some legislation that will ease some of these tensions in the condo market. Realistically, though, I know government drags their feet on everything. So I don't expect that to happen anytime soon, even though I'd like it to happen soon, right? But it puts a whole bunch of people that are on fixed incomes that have owned condos for many, many years in kind of a predicament. And what I'll do, because normally when we're talking about the news stories, I go from your national news stories to the state and to local news stories. But just because this one ties in really well, I want to hop over to the local news stories real quick, and let me just change my screen. Here we go. Florida condo owners score legal victory in fight over $35,000 special assessment. So a group of condo unit owners in Florida just won a legal victory against their own board in a fight over a whopping special assessment after a judge ordered the association leadership to hand over all records and control of a new board. So it's a two-tower, 45-story luxury high-rise in Miami. Essentially, the starting price there is going to be like $400,000 for a studio that's around 500 square feet. but this is in the financial district neighborhood around Brickell Avenue. It started when the passage of a staggering 21 had been put up by Jacob Kessel, and he's trying to keep the